Hey guys, Fat Brad here with Fat Brad's Garage. Wanted to show a project that I've been working on. It's done. I didn't take any pictures or videos during the whole process, but I'll show you what I did. So my wife's uncle has an old Ford pickup that his dad had restored and then had passed down to him when he had died. I believe it's a 1935. He came to me with a problem. He couldn't figure out an electrical issue. It just kept draining batteries. And he couldn't figure out why I'd replaced the battery, check wiring, and couldn't figure it out. So he asked me to take a peek at it, and I told him I would. Did a little research, got my multimeter to test everything out. I'm trying to find where the parts are. Maybe he already took them. Anyway, so it ended up being, it's called a generator cutout. So that little silver box on top of the big black cylinder, this is the generator cutout. This is the generator, so, or alternator. It was a generator. Back then, basically that little cylinder acts as a circuit. It completes the circuit in order to charge it when the engine's running fast enough. And when the engine's not running fast enough, it's supposed to open up inside that. It's the cutout relay. And so it doesn't push any power or pull any power. Well, as they get old, those 2 points, they won't disconnect. So it'll constantly connect it. So basically the circuit was complete even with the engine off. And so it was just pulling power drastically back through the system and draining the batteries within a day. It was very fast. So I replaced that, tested it with my multimeter on the battery to make sure it wasn't dropping any voltage, and it wasn't. Tried to start it, wouldn't start. So I was like, oh, okay, well, there's another issue. Wouldn't start, it was just sitting crank and crank and crank and crank and crank and crank and crank. So I start going back to the drawing board. And I mean, these old trucks, they're different. How they run, you've got the starter is on the floor. You've got clutch, brake, starter, gas. You've got choke and also throttle up here on a handle. My suspicion was fuel, that it wasn't getting fuel because it had been sitting for a very long time, a couple of years. The old fuel filter, I wish I could show you. I think that he threw them away. So I took off the old fuel filter and it was just gunked up, full of crap and just dry. So it wasn't getting any fuel through the fuel filter at all. I replaced that and I pressurized the gas tank with my air compressor, just my nozzle. Just this guy. And forced fuel all the way through the line to make sure that the line wasn't clogged before I connected the fuel filter back to the fuel pump. Pushed fuel out, so I knew, obviously, there's no clog in the line. So I connect everything back up, sit and try to start it. Nothing. It's not cranking. So I'm like, okay, maybe the pump's having some issues. So I disconnected the fuel line from the pump to the carburetor to see if fuel was getting in or getting through the fuel pump. And it wasn't. There was no fuel coming out of the fuel pump. So I'm like, okay, so the fuel pump's not pumping actually. So then, just to test it, I pressurized the gas tank again with my air compressor while I had somebody sitting and cranking on the motor so that it could actuate that fuel pump mechanism while it's forcing fuel actually into the fuel pump, thinking that fuel pump's probably just dry. Sure enough, fired right up, burned through all the bad fuel, tons of smoke. Took the air compressor off the fuel tank, still kept running, drove the truck around for probably 20, 30 minutes just to make sure that it wasn't the fuel I had pushed into it that it was burning through, and she kept running. So just had to wet the whistle of the fuel pump, if you will, primed it, and she's still going. So I'll show you that whole mechanism. I didn't have the proper size tubing, so I used multiple clamps on the fuel line. This is the new fuel filter. I had to replace both of these lines because they were just dry rotted out. This is the fuel pump. So the fuel goes through fuel pump. The motor is what actually kicks this and actuates the pump mechanism that then pushes the fuel in, if you can see this line, up to the carburetor. And then as it is sucking air, it's squirting fuel in at the same time. So there we go. She runs, drives great. I drove it around. My wife's uncle drove it around. He's happy as can be. It was a fun project. Learned a lot. And just gained a little bit more confidence. Like I said, I do these videos and started this whole shindig and just to give confidence to everybody that you can learn. I'm not an expert. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a technician. But I know how to do research. I know how to look things up, and I have a base understanding because I've been tinkering with machines and motors and everything for years, just basic stuff. So go out there, do it, just give it a shot, try it. That's all you got to do. When you try it, you're going to fail, just like me. The electrical, I thought that was the only issue because that's what he had said. Fixed the electrical, truck still wouldn't start. So then I had to go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, what's next? And fix the fueling, and bada bing, bada boom, got it going. So, like I said, have the confidence in yourself. Go out and actually start trying, tinkering with stuff. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to have more confidence. Plus, you're going to save a lot of money. You don't need to have a specialist to do everything for you in your life. Become a generalist. Learn how to work on stuff. Learn how to build things. I love it. It's a great time. Thanks, guys.